Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast. Shortly, we'll be joined by Skeggs, who recently released their new album, Pacific Highway Music. But before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And again, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, whatever you're watching or listening. Delighted to welcome Benny from Skeggs to the Full Pelt Music Podcast today. Benny, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you going?
Yeah, no, well, obviously excited to get to talk to yourself because it is an exciting time for Skeggs. As it often is on this podcast, we talk to bands around the time of releasing a new record. And for yourselves, that's Pacific Highway Music. And before we delve into the album itself, I do see you've obviously just been on a bit of a whistle-stop tour around the world to obviously sort of plug the album. You've been to the UK, where we're based. You've been over to America. How are those, release shows gone for you?
Yeah, they've been real fun. It's actually been really fun to do. Some people kind of um like sort of guided us into a few cool venues where they're real novelty. Like one of the ones we played at was a cool Chinese restaurant, and they have a tiny little room in it, but like a lot of young kids froth it. They like having a feed there, but the room's real fun to play. And same as where we just played in LC in LA. It was like a real medieval little kind of novelty theatrical kind of setting. And then like straight after that, we went out to Pioneer Town in near Joshua Tree and played um, Pappy and Harriet's saloon and that joints. You know exactly what I thought it would be. Like it's just got this real nice feeling. They're a bit looser out there, so like they kind of get stoked if you do sell just a couple of tickets on a random night, a weeknight, and like the lady at the bar was hell lovely. A few like old school rockers were there, supposedly like one of the guitarists or something from Limp Bizkit, and just a bunch of crew like that. They live out there, but it's so nice. They like come, but it's been real fun just doing these novelty little kind of. It just feels like we've done a bunch, and I love that feeling, kind of playing in a funny setting. Makes it a bit more interesting, I reckon.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, some fantastic sort of settings and venues you just mentioned there. I mean, you certainly piqued my interest with the combination of Chinese food and like music. Like that sounds like a match made in heaven to me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
serious combo.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a nice segue because speaking of serious combos, obviously Pacific Highway Music is Skeg's first album that you've put together as a duo, as a
Mm.
combo. How was the recording process for you this time? Obviously, going in with just the two of you.
Um, so something sort of different we did. We definitely like met different producers and stuff just to see and more chat than let alone like try and like, solidify something quickly. We are more just never really done it. Met a bunch of people just to see if there was someone we gelled with or something like that. And uh we gelled with this British guy, Paul Butler, from a band called the Bees, and because it's I don't know, sometimes with Aussies and English it's quite easy to just get along because it's just that pretty casual conversation. Like we're just used to the similar banter and stuff. So for us, that's always a huge thing. Not to write anyone else off. It's more just like it's the chemistry was quite quick and stuff. So we just knew we'd enjoy spending time with him. And I guess it was, and another thing, like sort of recording like the whole time over in America was a new thing for us. We've always just enjoyed it in Australia because it's, like what's around, your environment, like what gears around and stuff. So I think it was just different for us, spending time not to do a record in another country, and then not having Tobes was a challenge, I think, because we've always played live, and I think the bass definitely holds down a lot of um the timing that we've never really done click tracks and stuff, so it is a huge element sort of in hindsight from this record and that. But the main thing we got to do and always wanted to do is try a bunch of things that I always wondered. And you sometimes have to like sort of make that sacrifice if you want to figure it out. And I think I'm glad we did try a bunch of stuff because we definitely know that from the past, like, and there's sometimes a medium too, because certain songs like we should do this to a click track and things like that. But yeah, it's been like a big lesson and learning curve to try a bunch of new things. And yeah, I think that's a bit of a difference from the past. I think going a little
Yeah.
bit out of the comfort zone, more in like an environmental kind of way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I love bands that are willing to do that because that's what makes the most interesting music, in my opinion. Bands that just follow that same set routine and release the same album every sort of 2 or 3 years. It just gets a bit monotonous and boring after a while, doesn't it? So it's nice to for the listener as well as obviously for yourselves, I guess. Just to do something a little bit different. So yeah, and the album has been out for what about 3 or 4 days? Yeah, 3 or 4 days at this point. How have you found the reaction to it thus far?
It's been real nice. A bunch of people have like sent messages and like people I don't even really know and they some people it's amazing when some people like pick up what you're putting out. So it's like I've definitely expected it to be like a slow burner and stuff because there were some songs I'd been sitting on for a very long time. It was good to just sort of get them out now and out of the system. And it was actually quite a process recording it, but um it's still been quite positive and stuff. And they sort of some people have been responding like how I was hoping and imagining. Like it's more something you can like listen to on your own and just zone out to. Like it's a bit of that kind of a collective of songs. I don't know if like they're all kind of gonna be like they just didn't come out crazily upbeat
Hmm.
um and raw as we've sort of done in the past. And it's not a bad thing because then it might be like easier on the ears to kind of mellow out to if you're sleeping or if you're just cruising in your car and you don't want something a bit hectic. So it's kind of like I just see it as a bit of a marathon for the Arsenal for now. And then we've kind of got new songs, and I'm like, all right, we should really put something like heavy and raw out again, kind of quick. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I look forward to obviously hearing what comes next. But I mean, yeah, this collection of songs, as you say, I mean, I think I wrote in the review, this isn't the album you would listen to in a sort of loud pub. This is the album you'd listen to when you go and chill out at the beach after you've been in the pub. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, sick.
definitely like, great like vibes to it. And obviously, I've seen, some real positive feedback for it. I mean, our review was definitely a positive one as well. And given that it was obviously your
Thanks. I'll have to
first.
read it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Well worth a read. So, yeah, with all the positive feedback that's coming in, and it being that first album, obviously, where you've stepped out the comfort zone a bit, there is just the two of you. Does it make that positive feedback feel even more nice to hear, given that you have sort of stepped outside this time?
Yeah, and I think the thing that ultimately always makes me feel kind of comfy is when the last couple of months just playing different places around the world and chatting a crew and it's been real nice like making friends, right? Like I make a lot of friends like through gigs and things because I feel like I find a lot of like-minded people and I'll even show them the album or something. Like if like I've sent some people that before it's come out that I've just randomly made friends with, and it's fun to let them give you an analysis like off somebody that's not like a family member or a friend or something, and I think they're always just like look like your shows are just heaps fun and like you know that like however it comes out on the record, it actually when we play it live, it's always way quicker. It's like 50 times quicker. It's like you can't even control that. And then and it's just it'll come out raw and stuff. So they're always like it's like sort of kind of reaffirm that people, they know that. and they tell you anyway. So it's kind of nice. Makes me comfy when like you just show someone and they're like, yeah, like if you even be a bit honest about it, and then they're just like, no, it's sweet. Like they're like, we like how it kind of comes out different at the shows and stuff and sort of thing. And that's kind of the feedback, that personal feedback I've been getting with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it must, yeah, feel all the more sweeter. Absolutely, like this time around, as you say, and yeah, listeners, listening to the podcast, it's definitely an album you need to check out if you haven't. I mean, I always say these days, if you're listening to the Full Pelt Music Podcast with Skeggs, you probably already have listened to it, but if you haven't, definitely go and listen to it. And we're going to spotlight two songs from it now as well for listeners to go and check out. And one is High Beaming, which is one of the later singles to come out from the album. We featured it over on our playlist, so we always like to just ask a question around the song that we're featured on there. And for High Beaming, we're simply going to ask, what does the song mean to you? What is the song about, and how did it come together for you?
This song, it's got a few meanings to me in a way. There one time we were doing a gig in Hawaii at with Iggy Pop actually. He like randomly jumped up and did a few songs with the band that was supporting us, these mates of ours, and the next day I was like pretty hungover and the swell looked like it had dropped off in at like off the wall near like where pipeline, right? It's like, the left wave of pipeline. Or like it's the right, but it's just to the left of where pipeline is. And I was like, maybe it's a bit smaller today, and I'm like, I got to go out because my best mate will kill me if I like didn't try paddle out here at some point because if we could swap places, he'd definitely be surfing out there, kind of thing. And I remember like it took me ages to even get off the shore, and I was like, whoa, it's still way bigger than I thought once I like got down there. And I'm a pretty big pussy when it comes to surfing big waves, and it's but I tried and I paddled out and I got out the back and I was just tripping. I was so scared. I had the worst butterflies in my life. Like I was going to throw up because I'm like, if a big set comes through, I'm fucked. And I kind of got two waves, and on the second wave, I just shot myself in the shore. I'm like, that's enough. But when I was out there, in my head, it just felt like the ocean was breathing because there was a lot of power, and I never really surf in big waves. And it's to most Aussies, they'd be like out there and going, this is sweet. Or heaps of my friends, they wouldn't be as tripping or anything. But to me, like that's just my personal kind of experience with it. I was like, fuck, I swear the ocean breathes here because it just felt like it was going, ooh, ooh, just adding to fucking the anxiety that I had. So that kind of that sort of stuck with me, and then I put it into that song in a way. And then I guess the song itself is probably because being a person that is a bit like crazy and thinks about things a lot, like quite curious and stuff. It's have seem to have pretty weird conversations with people, and then like yeah, I guess my ex-girlfriend that I used to be with was quite a positive person, and it's not like I'm pessimistic, but it was just always amazing how like whenever you were, and some people they just always have quite a nice, refined, positive thing to say. So it's a bit of an ode to her, like having that ability kind of thing and counteracting when you just decide to be a little bit like pessimistic sometimes.
Yeah, no, yeah, great explanation of it, and hopefully, listeners, will pick up on that as they go away and listen to it. And yeah, it's one of my favorite songs on the album. So it's yeah, obviously great track to pick out as a single. As was Spaceman, which is the other song I want to talk about. But for Spaceman, I want to focus in on the music video because I'm a massive geek when it comes to music videos. Grew up watching music videos like music TV before and after school, Kerrang and Scuzz in the UK and everything. And it's a bit of a dying art these days. Some bands I interview, I look and there's not actually any videos that have been made, and it's like, oh man, that's like
Mm.
gutting to me. You've got quite a few really cool videos that I really enjoyed. High Beaming as well, listeners. Obviously, check that video out. It's a nice little sort of ode to everything you've been doing recently. And yeah, I like a bit of a sort of story, a bit of a funny video. And Spaceman, I thought you nailed it really. Marrying it up with the song and the video, and obviously bit of a story there. Like it was just a beautiful video
Yeah.
to see. So I mean, how did you come up with the concept for the video, and obviously how did you get it into practice?
Well, it's kind of actually a good leeway into back in me being a bit of a tripper. So I've got a mate, Vaughan Blakey, and he's made like a lot of surf orientated films and things like never made a music video, but I hit him up and I go, hey, would you ever want to help us make a music vid? I have all these ideas for this film clip, but I think my ideas aren't I don't think we'll be able to like pull them off. Like you need probably like a gazillion-dollar budget. I'm like, if I could just tell you everything and then you maybe simplify it and make it make sense. Because I think I've always like got them in my head, but I don't know how to like translate it to where it's like something you could pull off with a small budget sort of thing. And then I just told him all the kind of things, and then he's like, all right. And then he just made his own storyline and sort of kept all the themes and things that I wanted, which was cool. Like he remembered everything I said to him, and then he put it so it made a bit more of a sense, made it make sense, kind of thing. And it's like still random, like threw things in, but yeah. So he translated it for me, and then it was one of the funniest things we've made. Like making it, I was just like pissing myself for like the whole day. I felt like I didn't stop laughing. Because one of my good mates, Ricky Van Cardy, he dressed up as the alien, and he's a bit of a character, and a lot of things we even did, like we got first go, like he couldn't see through the mask, and the first putt he got it in the hole, so we were actually genuinely tripping. And then the same as dropping in, hadn't dropped in at a skate park for like 6-7 years, maybe longer. And he just got it. So, and like couldn't see out the mask. So we're just like actually tripping, genuinely. We were thinking those things were just going to take ages.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny.
I'm glad you say that because to me, obviously watching the video, it's clear that you guys were having fun while you made it, and that just adds another layer to it for me. You can see that you're just enjoying yourselves with it, and yeah, I think it's just a stunning sort of music video, especially in this day and age. On again, as you say, it doesn't need a music video doesn't need to cost the world to make. You can make some like really impressive videos without spending a massive amount of money to do so, and you've pulled that one off really, really well.
Yeah, thanks. I'll
Yeah,
tell
no.
Warner he'll be stoked.
Yeah, no, absolutely do. Yeah, so
And
I've
Nick Paulette.
yeah, yeah. I love music videos, and it is a dying art. So it's great to see when something like that gets pulled off so well. And obviously, yeah, just listeners again, there'll be a link in the bio. Click on it, go and watch the video if you haven't checked it out already, and obviously check out everything that we're talking about. Obviously with the release, I did notice as well, like your last two releases have hit number two, and then Rehearsal hit number one in the Australian charts, which obviously is like a hell of an achievement. So yeah, with this album, do you have any inclination at the moment how well it's performing chart wise?
I'm not too sure. I don't really ask those questions too much, but I can't imagine it might do us like go that good. But it's all right.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
great
We got we
attitude.
got we got a we got a couple gigs still booked in the future, so we're still a band for like at least another 6 months.
Well, that is a nice lead
So
on.
we'll enjoy that thoroughly.
No, absolutely. I mean, and obviously, kudos, like it's massive credit for obviously achieving what you've achieved so far. And I hope you're a band well beyond that. And leads me on to the next question. Obviously, being over in the UK, you have just popped over, so any listeners picking up on yourselves now, you need to kick yourselves because you just missed out on catching you. You played Signature Brew in Haggerston, I believe. So, is there plans, on this album cycle? Would you like to come back over to the UK again?
Yeah, we just dropped the tour poster right like probably 20 minutes ago.
Ah,
So
nice.
UK, yeah, UK is on there. Yeah.
Excellent.
couple of new spots, I think, and bit of Europe, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, you must
We haven't
be.
been to Europe. We played in France the other day at a Quicksilver event in Hossiga, which was epic, and we all fell in love with the joint. And so we're playing in Bordeaux, which is kind of close, but yeah, it's we haven't been back to Europe since before the pandemic, so it's going to be a fun tour, and we always love playing at the UK. But I think our chemistry with the English is just pretty easy. So I've always made pretty good mates there, and I'm still, like keep in touch with every time we do a tour. So it's real, yeah, looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too now. And obviously, yeah, listeners, there'll be a link in the bio for those tour dates as well. So definitely jump on a show if you can. Best way to stay up to date with bands these days is obviously social media. So I always like to give out the social handles at this point. It's a bit of a tradition, even though I'd like to think fans would probably find you without my help. But you make my life quite easy because I only have to read out one, and it is literally just the band's name, Skeggs, across all your social channels. Sometimes there's like 4 or 5 different handles, underscores, and all kinds of weird stuff in them. But yours is literally just Skeggs. So listeners,
Yeah.
yeah, go and follow Skeggs to check out these tour dates, obviously, and come along to a show. And it's great as well to see, obviously, the sort of popularity of Aussie music in the UK at the minute. You've mentioned a few times, obviously, the relationship between the Aussies and the UK in sport can get quite competitive, but in general, we love each other, and there's a lot of love at the moment for the likes of the Shats and Amal and the Sniffers. They're both headlines sort of biggish festivals over here recently. Do you
Mm.
do you take note of what's obviously happening in the UK, over the pond over in Australia, and see that there's other Aussie bands sort of doing well and obviously like look to sort of capitalize on that, or is it something that you don't really pay attention to?
No, it's so sick seeing those bands kill it so hard. It's mad. It's not. It's like, even I think there's something nice about, because we've played on the bill with those guys at times, and you just want to see good bands thriving, and you want to see good people thriving. They're all like real lovely people too, so it makes you just get real stoked when you're seeing like people get the success they deserve, I reckon. And
Yeah,
like that, they go hard. Both those bands, a couple of good Aussie bands. Like, it's good, and well, they kind of like, it's sick when you see crew pioneer it, because it domino effects for sure, because it makes another band go, maybe we should like actually get our shit together and try booking overseas tour or something. And there's all those kind of little things where some younger bands or fresh bands, it breaks the ice for them in a way where some things that seemed impossible don't seem too crazy, like, because you just got to ask people questions and get to know people, and then yeah, you can. It's a fun way to travel, even if you are a
yeah.
band and like not that many people come to your show. Like, it gives you like a task and a duty. Like, you're like, it's almost, it's funner than probably a Kentucky tour, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, I mean, I love to see it. We've featured a number of great Aussie bands across the podcast in recent years, and
Yeah.
yeah, it is definitely noticeable to me that there's a lot of success at the moment. Hopefully, Skeggs are going to get a part of that as you come over for this next tour as well. It's obviously a great time for the band with the third album out, and listeners, like I say, everything we've talked about throughout this podcast, definitely jump on, check it out if you haven't done already. It's been obviously amazing talking to you, Benny, about all this. We've got one question in this podcast that is always the last question. It's always the same question. It's only question that's always the same. It's a segment called Magic Wand. Um, exactly. So early on in the life of this podcast, I found myself talking a lot with the guests about issues within the music industry. And obviously they translate whether you're in the UK, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Australia, there's issues like within the industry everywhere. And I didn't want it to take over the podcast. So I shoehorned it all at the end, basically. And I don't try not to talk about it too much throughout the rest of the podcast. But with this segment, I'm going to give you an imaginary magic wand, Benny. And with that magic wand, you can change one thing about the music industry. But obviously one thing only, which is where it
Whoa.
can get quite tough. And sadly, it is an imaginary magic wand. I really do wish it was real, given some of the answers we've had. But with your magic wand, Benny, today, what would you change?
Oh, I guess I'd change, even though it hasn't maybe even happened to us that much, but hopefully, like all the con men promoters just always pay everyone, all the bands for that. If they could do that and rewrite history with that situation, and I think it'd be nice to. Well, in Australia, there's sometimes grants that if they made the grant operation quite a bit easier because something apparently there's a bit of a knack to that. So if they made that process somehow a bit more in layman's terms and simpler for people to achieve, um, and probably yeah, I guess maybe like maybe like a forum for promoters for bands to approach. So then if you do want to try and tackle another territory but know how to do it without backtracking and like wasting heaps of coin, if there was like a forum for international promoters to guide guide bands that maybe don't have that help at the beginning, because a lot of bands get kind of cooked on their first couple of overseas tours and then they're all trooping because they live it up and then they're tired and then there we go. So some kind of guidance in that way for people would be probably um, something that everyone could probably benefit from.
Absolutely. I think that's a really really good one, Benny, actually. And yeah, good little yeah, sort of opportunity there for some people maybe to take advantage of and put obviously something good in place and hopefully not take advantage of the artists, which as you say is something that sadly happens quite a lot. Yeah, no, absolutely great answer to that, and obviously yeah, great conversation all round, Benny. It's been a pleasure talking to you about this really great album. Listeners, you really do need to go check it out. I always just drill it home again at the end as my final message, but I always like to give the final message over to the guests. So, Benny, what would be your final message for the listeners today?
Hope you like it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I am sure they will. Thank you so much, Benny, for giving me your time and coming on the podcast today.
Cheers, Paul. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Skeggs. Do make sure you check out their latest album, Pacific Highway Music, and of course follow the band across social media to stay up to date with everything coming from them. You can also stay up to date with Full Pelt. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast.